Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the DFS Army Fantasy Football Show. I'm your host, Flex Shane. You can follow me on Twitter at FlexNetwork1. Today I'm joined, of course, by Brandon Adam. Follow him on Twitter at BrandonDAdam19. Brandon, today we're going to go through round by round our perfect draft in 2022 Fantasy Football Leagues. So earlier this week, and we're releasing part 2 shortly, but we just released part 1. But Kevin and I on the DFS Army Bold Call show just went through our bus per round. And, you know, Kevin, he likes to live in the negative, you know, his own words. We're more glass half full kind of people, Brandon. So,
yeah.
You know, we're thinking, okay, if we could have our perfect draft, this is how we're going to do it. So for the people, just to kind of sparse through, obviously, especially in the early rounds, the ADPs are not, they're very firm, right? So if you're drafting at the back end of round 1, there's almost a zero chance you're going to get Cooper Kupp, zero chance you're going to get Justin Jefferson, those types of players. So we're going to have our number 1 favorite guy. And then before moving on to the next round, we'll say, okay, well, if you draft in the second half of the round, maybe favor this player, right? But we just won't get into as much analysis. So let's not bury the lead, Brandon. Let's get into it. Round 1, who is your perfect player to draft in round 1, regardless of your draft position?
I think the safest, highest floor guy with the biggest upside is Justin Jefferson in round 1. I think he is going to be the wide receiver 1 for next season. I just love the fact that they are going towards that Rams offense with Kevin O'Connell, the new coach. I just feel like that offense was kind of stale beforehand, and now he's going to get some creativity in that offense and going to get JJ some, like I've been seeing in the media, they've been saying they're going to try and get JJ as many easy targets as possible, try to work those easy pass routes just to get his numbers even higher. And they're going to elevate, and it's going to be a monstrous season for Justin Jefferson. He's a smash for me. A few other guys in round 1 that I like is Cooper Kupp as well. And then also Dalvin Cook. I'm big on Vikings this year. I think the Vikings are actually going to take a huge step forward this year. I think they're going to win their division. I think it's going to be a Viking year, and Dalvin Cook and Justin Jefferson are going to be behind it. Either of those two, I'm so good with being, if I want to start running back first, it's Dalvin Cook. If I want a wide receiver build, it's Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, I mean, so like Kevin O'Connell, head coach of the Minnesota Vikings, he has experience playing with Kirk Cousins, and he should allow him to throw the ball. He should have a little bit more trust in Cousins this season. And look, I mean, Justin Jefferson, we're hearing it all over, is they see him as a Cooper Kupp type role, which means 170, 190 potential targets. Obviously, Adam Thielen is there. Emir Smith-Marset, we like him, but he's way, way down there. I mean, he's barely being drafted in the league. So Justin Jefferson is going to be hyper efficient, going to get a ton of targets. I mean, honestly, I would say probably 170 targets or more potentially next year. The upside is just absolutely massive. He was one of my guys, so I'm definitely going to agree with you there. But, man, Kevin keeps crapping on Stephon Diggs, but I would say that if I'm drafting in the backhand of round 1, I am so happy to get Stephon Diggs. I actually have him in a tier with Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase. More so Jamar Chase, I would say.
Jamar Chase,
you know, I would say Kupp and Jefferson are probably firmly tier 1 wide receivers, and then tier 2 would be Chase and Stephon Diggs. Last year, he didn't have the sizzle, he didn't have the pop, he didn't have the blow up weeks to win you a week. You know, I think he had what was it, 1 30-point game in PPR type leagues last year, and that wasn't enough. So he disappointed you. But at the end of the season, every single week he was pretty darn consistent. And just 2 years ago, when he was being fed the ball, he absolutely exploded. I would argue last year was his absolute worst case scenario. We like Gabriel Davis. The fantasy community seems to like him even more than you, which is shocking. Even you were saying,
yeah, that's shocking because I've been a truther for 2 years.
Yeah, no, but I mean, it's at the point where I feel that the community's gotten a little over their skis with Gabriel Davis because Stephon Diggs is still firmly entrenched as the number 1 option on this team. He's going to be the most likely to get double-digit 11, 12, 13 plus touchdowns. We know the Buffalo Bills are going to continue to throw the ball 650 times a season. right? So they're going to be close to the league lead. So even if there is 5, 6, 7 targets a game going to Gabriel Davis, which I think would be high, Stephon Diggs is going to continue to get the majority of that target share. He's probably going to be 25 to 27% of that target share. And all he's got to do is get in the box, and he's going to absolutely massively outperform where we think he's going. And he's got wide receiver 1 in his range of outcomes. So if I'm in the back half of round 1, I'm super happy going with Stephon Diggs, going with the massive upside. We've seen him do it. Last year was the absolute floor, and it's only up for Stephon Diggs. Who's round 2? Who you got, Brandon?
So round 2, it's the easiest smash for me possible. It's DAndre Swift. I think DAndre Swift is going to be a league winner across the board for so many people that get him. He's absolutely my favorite draft pick of anybody. Like he's going to get hyper targeted in the passing game. He's one of like 4 backs that had six catches a game. I mean, come on. I mean, everything about him prior to injury, he was on pace to just absolutely be a top 3 running back. He's bulked up in the season, bulked up this offseason. He looks really good. His shoulders look bigger, and that's what took him out last year was his shoulder. And so he obviously took that to heart, was like, that's never going to happen again. And he put on big time weight up in the top half of his body, and he is built to take some hits now. I think this year with the Lions, I think they are going to take a massive step forward as an offense. I can actually see them being in the top 20 instead of the bottom 5 like they were last year. I think they can be up. They're going to make themselves a nice leap. I'm all the way on board with DAndre Swift as my RB1, and I am so pumped to do that. I just feel like the upside is tremendous, and I think they're going to be always behind in games, so they're going to be throwing a ton, and that means he's going to get a lot of work out of the backfield on passing downs and catch a lot of balls. So I'm pumped for him. I want him on every single roster I can. So DAndre Swift is my second round perfect draft pick.
I'm really curious to see what he weighs in at this year. I mean, so he was playing around 212 pounds in previous seasons. If he can get up to even 220 and make his body just a little bit more durable, it's nice to hear that he's actually working on his upper body, because to your point, he got that hit. He landed weird on his shoulder, and that was it. It's pretty much, that was it for his season, right? Before he was having a magical season. And yeah, I mean, again, it's funny because you and I discuss, debate a lot of these players, but at the end of the day, we have a lot of similar players that we like to talk about. But DAndre Swift, he's on my list as well. Another player that you highlighted, and I'm going to highlight here, is Mike Evans, man. He's continuing to move up boards, but he's still only going as a wide receiver 7, 16 overall at ADP, going right after DAndre Swift. And I am perfectly comfortable starting like a Dalvin Cook, Mike Evans, going bang, bang wide receiver, going Stephon Diggs, Mike Evans. Mike Evans is going to be an absolute monster this year in terms of targets and opportunity. I just simply don't buy into the fact that Chris Godwin's going to be ready by week 1. He's probably going to go into PUP list. And as we've talked about before in the show, which frankly, in my opinion, is being underreported, PUP this year is only 4 games. So they're going to miss a month of the season. So you say Chris Godwin's put on the PUP 4 weeks. It's still a month where Mike Evans is going to go out there. He's going to be Tom's number 1 target. Spoiler alert, Leonard Fournette, he is on our do not draft list where he's going at ADP. If he's going to go into the 3rd round, then we'll start talking about him. But there's just there's some risk factor with Leonard Fournette. It's all going to bubble up to Mike Evans, Kyle Rudolph, get out of here. He's a second-tier tight end. Cameron Brate, second-tier tight end. Kate Otten is now irrelevant. Sorry, Clipboard Jesus. It's going to be the Mike Evans show, and he's going to smash this year. What do you say, Brandon?
I'm all about. I have a grouping. It's funny you said Lenny. I have a grouping for that round, and I actually have Lenny as one of my guys. I actually really like drafting. I think this whole weight thing is overblown. The guy is a big dude in the offseason. He's been that way every single year of his career. He's always. I just read a whole thing from his trainer that. This is nothing new for Lenny. Lenny comes in around this weight every single year, and then he trims it off the last month going into camp, and then camp he gets all the way down to where he needs to be. But Lenny, what I love about Lenny is just the workload. That workload is going to be tremendous no matter what, even with Rashod White. I think Rashod White is going to have a phenomenal role already for a rookie because of the loss of Gronk. I feel like they're going to be using Rashod White in the passing game quite as well to offset those vacated targets in the middle of the field. They can use Rashod White as easy passing opportunities for Tom. But Lenny was another one of those guys that had incredible passing work. I think it may come down a little bit, may come from 6 catches a game down to 4, which is totally fine. That offense is going to be just as good with Tom there. It's going to be fine. But Mike Evans, I think he's honestly the steal of the round. Like he has wide receiver 1 upside. Like he really does. And last year, I mean, ever since Tom has gotten there, he hasn't gotten over like 20% target share. So it's not really a high elite target share with the amount of targets he's getting in that offense. But with Godwin out and with Gronk gone, Tom Brady's just going to lean on those guys that he knows early. So that first month, Mike Evans is going to absolutely smash, like you said. I think he's going to have 10 target games. I think he's just going to go off. So I love Mike Evans. That's why he's on my list. If I went Dalvin Cook, I would definitely go Mike Evans in the 2nd round. That's exactly what I would do. Yep.
So Mike Evans finished as the wide receiver 11 last year in fantasy points per game with 16.41 fantasy points per game. It's really interesting you brought up his target share. We talk about these elite wide receivers. We want minimum 20%. We really want 25%. Last year, Mike Evans' target share was 16.4%. 16%. I mean, he was battling for targets from Antonio Brown, from Leonard Fournette, from Rob Gronkowski, from Chris Godwin. This year, a lot of those guys aren't there. Chris Godwin will be back in the second half of the season, we hope. But at the start of the season, it's going to be the Mike Evans show. It's going to be the Leonard Fournette show. I like Rashod White. I think you do too. He is going to eat into that backfield target share. Rashod White's, call it superpower, is his pass catching ability. So that worries me a little bit about Leonard Fournette. But yeah, I mean, look, if he starts to fall like to early round 3, I think that'd be an absolute
smash. Yeah. And I think he will because, us fantasy football players, we get moved by every little tea leaf there is. It's pretty hilarious actually to see the overreaction of everything. It's just how, especially nerds that don't understand how athletes kind of work, and they understand. Athletes understand what weight they need to be at what time, and they know. So
for the record, when you say nerds, I'm the nerd, and Brandon is the athlete.
I'm a nerd too. Like I'm a jock nerd, but it's just what it is. And honestly, I think Leonard that's been his deal in the offseason since he's been in the league, dude. Like it's been a narrative for him. So I fully expect him to be a pro and be back to running the ball at 245 and be fine. And I mean, I think that's what he's going to be at. But I think this is his last year of a monster season. But next year, Rashod White is gonna. Oh my goodness, Rashod White is gonna explode next year.
Yeah, I mean, not to make this a Leonard Fournette thing because he's not one of our guys, but he did just sign a 3-year deal. It's year 1. Yep. It was 3 years, $21 million. I think this year it's $11 million dead cap. So, I mean, he's going to have an active role. They have an out after year 2. So we hope as fantasy football managers that Rashod White can step in next season and really take over. But this is going to be Leonard Fournette's year. I mean, draft Rashod White with caution. Obviously, if there's an injury to Fournette, which, by the way, I'm writing an article right now as to why he's a bust candidate for round 2. And it's in part because, one, yes, he hasn't had injuries recently, but he did early in his career battle injuries. Coming into camp, Brandon, if you're forcing it, if you're pushing it, you're hitting the sun a little bit, you're a little bit dehydrated, you just increase your chance of injuring that soft tissue. The worst thing in the world is a soft tissue injury where he plays, but he's less effective, which means you're obligated as a fantasy football manager to put him in your lineup. And when he gets you 8-9 points because, hey, he missed half the game, or hey, they cut back his reps, that's a problem. But let's move on to round 3. Who is your must-draft player in round 3 for your perfect fantasy football draft in 2022, Brendan?
So So I made a couple different lineups of my perfect deal. So I'm going to just go with my Joe Burrow lineup that I made up for. I made a stack for him. And that was with T Higgins in round 3. T Higgins makes it down to round 3. That's a must smash. I think he's going to be wide receiver 10 to 13. I think he's going to be somewhere in that range. I think he's going to have monster games. I think he has that ability to absolutely win you a week by himself in that offense. I think Joe Burrow is going to take a massive step forward this year, and T Higgins is a massive reason why, because I think the consistency is going to be there this year for T. But if I'm not going to make a Joe Burrow stack, I would actually go Pittman. Michael Pittman would be my must draft guy if I'm going wide receiver and it's not a Joe Burrow stack. Michael Pittman has the upside to absolutely smash this year with Matt Ryan there. Matt Ryan will bring the consistency and will keep that offense on track and actually be kind of reliable for us fantasy players, because we'll know exactly how many targets they're going to try and blanket Pittman with from Matt Ryan, and Matt Ryan will deliver the football, a catchable football. Let's just add that, a catchable football that will actually allow Mike to get some yak and get some yards after the catch. And I mean, shout out Trashman Truth, or our buddy. He gave us the craziest stat there is. Michael Pittman had a 96% success rate against man coverage last year. That is so elite. That's insane. This guy is primed to break out. I just feel like everything is trending perfect for Michael Pittman. I like him a lot. He will be a wide receiver 1 this year.
Yeah, and that stat is compliment of Matt Harmon's reception perception. I got a question for you, Brandon. So
sure.
Pittman, month ago, let's call it, he was being drafted at the end of round 3. We've been on this bandwagon firmly. We're getting a ton of them in our best ball drafts, and we're out there like beating the drum for Michael Pittman, saying you must draft Michael Pittman around 3. He's now up to wide receiver 13, 28 overall, which is pick 3.4. At what point are you going to say it's a little bit too high for Michael Pittman? Like, what if he sneaks into the end of round 2, for example? Is that still palatable for you? Like, say you start off your draft with Jonathan Taylor, you come back around, you want to hammer Leonard Fournette on that turn, and then say pick 3.1. Would you be comfortable taking Michael Pittman there, or do you prefer AJ Brown, Nick Chubb, Keenan Allen, who's going ahead of him? I know my answer, but I'm curious what you would think.
Man, that's a close one. I actually like Pittman better. I think I don't mind paying the premium on him. I think he is a lock to explode this year, and I don't want to be left behind. If it's the end of round 2, yeah. But I mean, AJ Brown, when the second he overtakes AJ Brown, that's when I stop. I think AJ Brown, that's when I stop. Is AJ Brown? I'll take Pittman over T in certain aspects right now, because he is that number 1 option that passing offense, period. T Higgins will always be the number 2 with Jamar Chase there. So it makes way more sense to me for consistency purposes and for floor that Pittman would be the pick over T Higgins.
I think that's smart. I mean, T Higgins is going right around the end of the 2nd, early 3rd, as you noted. Players that I feel like are kind of being drafted too early. I like Michael Pittman ahead of Keenan Allen. I think my initial rankings at the start of the month, I had Keenan Allen over Michael Pittman, but I'm going to adjust, right? As more information comes out, I'm also warming up on Mike Williams over Keenan Allen this year. So I think that's an important play. But, Nick Chubb, I'm taking Michael Pittman over Nick Chubb, who's being drafted ahead of him.
Yep.
I agree. I think T Higgins should be going after Michael Pittman. So this ADPs, there is some softness to it that you can take advantage of, but I wouldn't be surprised if come this time in August, which is firmly draft season for fantasy football, you can see Michael Pittman going right around that 2-3 turn. I think that's interesting.
Yeah.
A guy that I really like, I mean, we've talked about Michael Pittman a lot on this show, but Travis Etienne, we just need to remind the people. We just need to remind the people that Travis Etienne is out there. He's healthy. And he's a really damn good player. He was highly drafted last year by the Jacksonville Jaguars. Super dysfunctional. I mean, since I've been watching football, the Jaguars last year were probably the most number 1 dysfunctional team in the NFL in the 15 odd years I've been watching football. Now, obviously he got hurt, so I mean maybe it was a blessing, right? He didn't get that additional wear and tear on the rest of his body, but this year one of his best comparable players is the aforementioned DAndre Swift. So if you talk about the massive potential upside for a player, and we forget about the fact that Trevor Lawrence was one of these generational QB prospects last year. He also was a victim of that dysfunctional offense and dysfunctional team last year. So I'm bullish on Travis Etienne. He's still going pretty cheap to where I think he's going to be drafted when redraft season really does start. He's going as RB 16, 34 overall, right at the end of round 3. And I'm comfortable taking him in round 2. You don't have to pay that price yet, but if he's in round 3 and you're on the clock there, I would hammer it. Hammer Travis Etienne. You will not be disappointed. I don't know. Do you have anything to add to that?
No, I mean, I think I'm pretty sure we're the first people to say he was discount Swift. I mean, months ago. Months ago we said that, and it seems like everybody's picked up the hype on Etienne quite a bit. He's in the group. He's in my group. If I want a running back in that, it depends on just how I'm building. But Etienne is in my group for that round. Absolutely. He's a smash pick for me. It really is hard for me to overlook Etienne and that upside when I pick a wide receiver in that round. So I'm right there with you. Etienne's a stud, and he's going to be phenomenal this year. I just feel like nobody is understanding how he's going to get blanketed with targets. It's going to be great.
Alvin Kamara is going right before him. Ooh, excuse me. Alvin Kamara is going right before him. Still uncertain if he's going to be suspended. Who would you take there?
Okay, so I just saw it seems more and more likely that Alvin Kamara is not going to be suspended this year. It seems more and more likely they're going to get it seems like the NFL lately has been allowing the legal system to play out before they do anything. And so the plan for Alvin Kamara's defense, he has court this week, is to get this thing pushed into the 2023 year. So there might not be any suspension for him this year. So if that's true, my God, is Alvin Kamara, it would be a early second round pick. That's where he would go if there was no issues.
He'd be in the middle of the first round, I bet.
Yeah, maybe I don't know. Maybe right behind Dalvin Cook. Yeah, probably right behind Dalvin Cook. So if he does, everybody that's been taking the risk in best ball or whatever, and this doesn't happen, congratulations, man, because you just smashed it out of the park, and you're going to have value built into your lineup that can't be replicated, to be honest. So I would take, I think at this point, I'm going to start drafting Alvin Kamara. I'm going to start drafting more Alvin Kamara. So it just seems to me that he's playing this legal thing perfectly, and he's not going to be suspended this year.
Not to go off on a rant about the NFL and their discipline, but
yeah,
the thing is, like, you just look back at Ray Rice and how they mishandled that. I mean, he didn't really. It was kind of a slap on the wrist until that video came out, and then he got the suspension. He was essentially kicked out of the league, right? Teams were just going to deal with him. Alvin Kamara at a football function. I don't know about you, Brandon, but if you're at a work function and you get into a fight and you beat the crap out of somebody, you think they'd take that pretty seriously, okay? And then you add on to the fact that there's actually video that the public haven't seen, but I guarantee you
the NFL
has seen it. I get that they want the legal process to play out, but that's kind of bullshit. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like the NFL does what it wants to do, and it can be very frustrating. Like, I'm of the opinion that I don't care if this guy was running his mouth. If you beat this guy within inches of his life, you deserve to be punished for it.
Sure.
And
I agree with you.
Yeah. You know, we live in in a society of rules. If there's evidence out there, I don't care what the legal proceeding is. If there is a video that the NFL has, they should use that. They don't need to release it. Issue the suspension this year, because it's irresponsible otherwise. I agree with you, though. I think from the legal perspective, it's probably not going to happen. There's not going to be a ruling until next year, which means there's a very good chance this year. So as fantasy football managers, put that aside. In the third round, he's a good value, but this is just classic irresponsible behavior by the NFL, and frankly, it's disgusting. I hate it.
Mm.
NFL, you should be ashamed of yourself. Okay, round 4, Brandon. Who you got? Who's your must-draft player to make your perfect fantasy football team?
Rashod Bateman. Rashod Bateman is my round 4 must guy. I think he has wide receiver 1, wide receiver 1 upside, not the wide receiver 1, but a wide receiver 1 upside. If I think Lamar's ready to sustain a legit wide receiver 1 in that offense. I think he's ready to prove the whole world that he can throw the football just like a Kyler Murray can, just like a Joe Burrow can, just like Herbert. So I'm excited for that. I was a big Bateman guy for him coming out of college. I thought he was probably next to Jamar Chase. He was the cleanest route runner in that class. And unfortunately, he had a groin surgery early in the season, and it took him out. And he wasn't right. He really wasn't right the whole year. And then when he got in, Lamar was gone, and he was out. And so it was the Ravens were a mess last year. So I just want a healthy season. And if we can get a healthy season between Lamar and Bateman, I think it's gonna be magic. So I just want Bateman to get 8 targets a game, man. If he can just get 8 targets a game, I'm gonna be so happy. I'm gonna 7 to 8 would be is what you do.
He's going to be hyper efficient in his targets. He's going to be hyper efficient, especially when he's healthy. And so, like, I played hockey. I played goalie when I played hockey, and there have been times where you have groin strains or pulled my groin or something like that. And there were times you could walk in a straight direction. It was fine. The second you try to move anywhere laterally, it was extremely painful, excruciatingly painful. So when that's literally your job to out agile other players on the field, it's going to be challenging. So now that he's healthy, he's got that dog mentality, man. I love Rashod Bateman. His thing is, this is classic Brandon. He's a line pusher. We talked about this in previous shows. He's a line pusher. Bateman's actually going in round 5. So but this is Brandon's stamp of approval. He's comfortable taking Bateman in round 4, because round 4 is kind of interesting.
Yeah,
a player
kind of a dead zone.
It isn't. It isn't. I mean, there's certainly some landmines. Like Gabriel Davis to me is a landmine. Cam Akers, we don't know, but he could be a landmine. Deontay Johnson, I love Deontay Johnson, but the geek is on record saying he's worried about Deontay Johnson. So there's Ezekiel Elliott, landmine, classic RB dead zone running back, aging, younger, better player on his same team. Terry McLaurin, he's still a commander, not a great thing. Carson Wentz, not a great quarterback. Jalen Waddle, he's dealing with Tyreek Hill. So yeah,
Tyreek Hill now
in this round, but I'm going to firmly say I'm going to go all in on this one. I'm not going to be shy. But Breece Hall going in round 4 is an absolute steal. If Breece Hall was in a quote better situation, say he was on the Steelers like Najee Harris was last year, where was Najee going? Wasn't Najee going like the 1-2 turn in fantasy drafts last year?
Second round,
firmly in the second round, and he produced, right? Breece Hall, I like Michael Carter, man. He was really great last year for the Jets, but you're not trading up and drafting Breece Hall in early round 2 to use him in a 50-50 committee with Michael Carter. That's just not how he's going to do. Breece Hall is a 3-down complete back that is an elite runner and an elite catcher of the ball. Why would you spend that sort of draft capital when you're rebuilding your team? Because make no mistakes, the Jets had a fantastic draft this year. Love Elijah Moore, love Garrett Wilson. They're still in rebuild mode. Zach Wilson needs to take a step forward. They're in rebuild mode. So how do you help protect your young quarterback? You surround him with talent, and you get the best running back in the draft. He's an all-around talent. You know who's most comparable player is on playerprofiler.com, Brandon? Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor's a pretty good running back. And here's the thing. I will say this. When JT was drafted, people were fading him because of the situation. They were actually drafting right around where Breece Hall's going right now this year. They were worried about Nyheim Hines catching the ball out of the backfield, and they were worried about Marlon Mack. Now, things kind of worked out. Marlon Mack got hurt. Yes, JT had a slow start to a season, but he won you your league. If you can afford to draft Breece Hall in round 4, which I think you should, build a strong team around him. He might still have a slow start to the season, but he will help you win you your league. I play by the eat it, and so do you, Brandon. If you're not first,
you're last.
You're last. Breece Hall will help you win your league. He is a difference maker. He's a true difference maker. And he's going to be one of these players that as he gets a little bit of momentum behind him in the NFL, he's going to absolutely smash. I guarantee you, this is a Shane Sealy guarantee. He's going to be drafted in round 1, round 2 next year in drafts. Just get ahead of the curve, man. He's going to be there. And guess what? He ain't going to be on waivers. So if you don't draft him here, you're not going to get him. And he's going to be a real difference maker to your team. So that's it. That's it, Brendan. Rounds 1 to 4. This is part 1 of players you must draft for the perfect fantasy football draft. Coming up next show, we're going to be doing part 2, rounds 5 to 8, and potentially a few honorable mentions. I mean, we'd like to go off script a little bit, Brandon, but
always.
I will say right now, this is the best time to draft because there's still soft ADPs. All the players we've talked about today, their ADPs are still too soft. Go out, take advantage, Go jump into a best ball league. We prefer Underdog. Use code DFS Army to get 100% first deposit match up to $100. So you deposit $100, they will give you $100. That's $200 to go play Best Ball Mania. Jump in one of those tournaments. Play some 12-person, 10-person leagues, slow drafts, quick drafts. It's how you fine-tune your skills so that you can dominate. So use code DFS Army. Of course, go to dfsarmy.com. Like, follow, and subscribe to this show/podcast. It's a new channel, Brandon. We're trying to grow it. We're growing it like crazy. We're putting out tons of content. We're going to help you win your league. So we appreciate you listening. For Brandon, I'm Flex Shane, and we are the DFS Army Fantasy Football Show.